In this video, we look at the modulus operator in Java. So you may recall when you first learned long division, right, that they may have taught you a way use where you got two answers, right? So if I have to divide, say, 3 into 17, I get two numbers. I get 5, and 5 times 3 is 15, and 3 doesn't go into 2, and we call this number the remainder. So we say 3 goes into 17 5 times, remainder 2. Or another example, 7 goes into 15 twice. 2 times 7 is 14. 7 doesn't go into 1, so we call that the remainder 1. So 7 goes into 15, 2, remainder 1. Well, this remainder number here is sometimes of interest to us, and we want to calculate it in a program. We use the modulus operator to do that. That works like this. So we say, so I want to divide value by divisor, but I want to get the separate results. So I have the whole number part, we'll call that the quotient. And that's just integer division, that, which is the fraction bar. Right? But when both sides are integers, here value is an integer and divisor is an integer, when we use the fraction bar with two integers, we only get an integer result. So if we want to know the rest of it, if we want to know the remainder, we have to divide, do another calculation. It's the same order, but we use a different operator. Right? That's called the modulus. It's the percent sign, but it's read modulus. So we're saying value mod divisor. And we'll print these results like so. All right, so let's give this a run. All right, so let's try our two examples. 17 divided by 3, quotient is 5, remainder is 2. Let's try it again. 22 divisor 7 goes in 3 times, remainder 1. So this can be used to determine whether one number is evenly divisible by another, right, by checking whether or not this remainder is 0. For example, "15 is evenly divisible by 3. We have an extra space here. And because the remainder is 0. Just for another example. We often use this to detect parity, meaning say whether or not something is even or odd. And rather than calculating the remainder and storing it in a variable, that's always possible, we just calculate it directly in the if statement. Collect input for another number, variable num, and we can compute the remainder directly in the if statement and say, well, if num mod 2, and then do the comparison, right, to this whole expression instead of to a variable, that equals 0, first value 41, 17, goes in twice, remainder 7. Any integer is even, because the remainder, when you divide this by 2, is 0. So this expression is true, and we get even. Enter any integer 11. 11 is odd because there is a remainder when you divide 11 by 2 that is not equal to 0. As another example of how to use modulus and div, let's say we have to enter a value in inches and then convert it to yards, feet, and inches. So we're going to do some input here. Now I'm going to set up some variables here for the conversion. So first I'm going to need inches per yard to find out how many yards that is, and that is 36. And then I'm also going to need inches per foot when I run out of yards. So what I can do is use integer division to get the yards, and then whatever's left over I can find out with the remainder operator, the modulus. For example, yards is the inches input, integer divide by inches per yard. But I'll have something left over if it's not an even number, if it's not divisible by 36. If it's not an even number of yards, I'll have some left over. Inches left. And we get that by using the modulus operator with the same values. Okay, inches input divided by inches per yard tells me yards. Inches input remainder inches per yard tells me how many inches are left after I've taken out the yard. So let's just see those two. Okay, so that just outputs the two things that we just calculated. We output yards, output inches left. And let's run this. And let's say 77 inches. 77 inches is 2 yards, and there's 5 inches left. Okay. Let's try it again. What about 217 inches? That's 6 yards, and there's 1 inch left. What if we do 210 yards? Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's 5 yards, and there's 30 inches left. Okay, well, maybe we want that to be feet. Okay, so we have to take the inches left and see if we can get any feet out of it by doing the same process, but use inches per foot as the divisor instead of inches per yard. So we add statements for that. Like so, we'll say int feet is the inches left. So I'm not dividing into inches input anymore because I've already taken the yards out of it. So I'm going to divide in what I have left. And I'm going to divide by inches per foot because I'm looking to get feet now. And now I finally have the final number of inches. Inches final is the inches left modulus inches per foot. And we want to print those two things. So there's our output for these two calculations. Clear. compile, execute, and let's say, again, 210. Okay, so that's 5 yards, 2 feet, and 6 inches. So we wouldn't ordinarily print out all these things in the middle. We'd save it until we had everything ready. All right, let's change that around a little bit. Oops. Left out a semicolon. Oh, I can't. I guess I have to use... Okay, so 210. 210 equals 5 yards, 2 feet, 6 inches. We still have this stray output here. Let's comment that out. Uh, 317. 8 yards, 2 feet, and 5 inches. 534. 14 yards, 2 feet, and 6 inches. Okay. So you get an idea here of how to use integer division and together with modulus to solve a problem.